My ex said we're better as friends and walked away. When she came crawling back months later begging for my attention, I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Nah, I'm good, thanks though." The look of absolute shock that spread across Emma's face was worth every moment of the past 6 months. Her mouth literally fell open, like she'd been physically slapped. She'd shown up at my apartment unannounced on a Tuesday evening, mascara smudged, hair disheveled, reeking of cigarettes and that vanilla perfume she used to wear for me. The same perfume that once drove me wild, but now just smelled like desperation. "What do you mean you're good?" she stammered, gripping the doorframe like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "I'm here. I came back. I realized I made a mistake." I leaned against my door, studying her face. The dark circles under her eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly, the designer purse hanging off her shoulder like armor she hoped would protect her from reality. This was not the confident woman who'd swirled wine in her glass 6 months ago, delivering her rehearsed breakup speech about needing space and figuring herself out. "Emma, you told me we were better as friends," I said calmly. "I respected that decision. I treated you exactly like you asked to be treated. Now you're upset because I actually listened?" The truth was, I'd spent the first week after our breakup feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. 3 years together, gone in a single conversation over dinner. Dinner I'd cooked, no less. I'd sat in that same chair for hours after she left, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and wondering what the hell had just happened. But then something shifted. Call it survival instinct, call it self-preservation, but my analytical mind kicked into gear. See, I work in risk assessment for corporate acquisitions. My job is literally to identify potential problems, analyze outcomes, and develop strategies to minimize damage. It's what I do 40 hours a week, and apparently, it's what my brain defaulted to when my personal life imploded. Within 2 weeks, I'd done a complete audit of our relationship. Emma had shown me exactly who she was through her actions, and I'd chosen to ignore the red flags because I was in love. The constant texting with Mark from her office, the way she'd become increasingly critical of everything I did, the subtle comments about how I was too much sometimes or too clingy when I'd suggest spending time together, the way she'd started picking fights about nothing, then acting like I was the unreasonable one. Most telling was how she delivered the breakup. No tears, no real emotion. Just clinical efficiency like she'd been planning it for weeks. She wanted me to fight for her, to beg, to give her some dramatic scene she could use to justify her decision. When I didn't, she'd seemed almost disappointed, so I made a strategic decision. I would give Emma exactly what she'd asked for. Friendship, nothing more, nothing less. The first text came 3 days after she left. "Hey, can we talk?" I waited until after lunch to respond. "Sure, what's up?" The conversation that followed was masterful in its restraint. She wanted emotional validation, confirmation that I was devastated. Instead, I gave her polite small talk. When she said she missed me, I replied that breakups were weird. When she asked if I was okay, I mentioned going hiking. Every response was friendly but distant, like I might talk to a coworker I barely knew. 2 weeks later came the drunk call I let it go to voicemail, listened to it the next morning while making coffee, slurred words about not understanding why I was being like this, because we'd said we'd stay friends, and friends answer when friends call. I texted back around noon. "Hey, saw I missed your call. Everything all right?" That's when she told me about fighting with Mark, the coworker she'd been texting constantly, the one she'd insisted was just a friend when I'd brought it up months earlier, the one she'd probably been seeing before she even broke up with me, though she'd never admit it. "That sucks," I replied. "Hope you guys work it out." Her response was immediate and furious. "Are you serious? That's all you have to say?" I waited an hour before responding. "What do you want me to say?" "I don't know. Maybe act like you care, like we actually meant something to each other." That's when I understood the game completely. Emma had expected me to be her emotional backup plan. She'd wanted to explore things with Mark while keeping me on the hook, maintaining our connection so she could come back if things didn't work out. The friends thing wasn't about genuine friendship. It was about control. My background in risk assessment had taught me to recognize manipulations tactics in business deals. Emotional manipulation wasn't that different. create dependency, maintain leverage, keep options open. Emma was running the same playbook, just with feelings instead of contracts. So I developed a counter strategy. I would treat Emma exactly like any other casual acquaintance, polite but distant, helpful when convenient but not obligated. No emotional labor, no middle-of-the-night crisis calls, no free therapy sessions about her relationship problems. When she asked me to help her move in with Mark, I declined. "Can't. I'm busy that day." "Doing what?" she pressed. "Stuff." Hours later. "You know, most people would at least pretend to have a real excuse." "Most exes wouldn't ask their ex to help them move in with their new boyfriend," I replied. The typing bubble appeared and disappeared for a full minute before she finally wrote. "I just thought we were better than this." "Better than what?" "Acting like strangers, like none of it mattered." That's when I laid it out clearly. "We're not strangers, we're friends. You said so yourself. Friends help each other. Friends also respect when someone says they're busy." She left me on read after that. The texts became less frequent after that exchange. Occasional check-ins that felt more like probes than genuine concern. I answered politely but vaguely, never giving her anything emotional to latch onto. It was like maintaining professional relationships with difficult clients, cordial but boundaried. Then one night, the dam finally broke. "I can't do this," she texted. "You're so fucking cold now. It's like you're a completely different person." I stared at my phone, considering my response carefully. Finally, I typed back, "Nah, I'm the same. You're just seeing me from a different angle." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means friends don't get the same version of me that you did. You wanted a demotion. Congrats, you got it." The silence stretched for days after that. I knew Emma well enough to recognize that she was regrouping, trying to figure out how to regain control of a situation she no longer understood. People like her always came back for another attempt. The next crisis came when I forgot her birthday. She'd texted at, "You didn't even say happy birthday." I waited until after work to respond. "Oh shit, is it today? Happy birthday." "You never forgot before." "Sorry, been busy," I replied. Then came the guilt trip. Mark forgot too. I spent the whole day alone. I didn't respond. It wasn't my job to manage her relationship problems or provide emotional support when her current boyfriend failed her. That was what she'd given up when she chose Mark over me. The calls escalated after that. Late-night drunk dials that I let go to voicemail. Midday calls that I ignored. Then finally, the 3 a.m. emergency calls that I silenced before going back to sleep. The next morning brought 17 missed calls and a single text. "I needed you last night." "Everything okay?" I texted back while making coffee. "Mark and I broke up. I was a mess and you couldn't even answer your fucking phone." The morning sun felt nice through my kitchen window. "That sucks," I replied. "You should call a friend." "I was calling a friend." "Oh, right. Well, I was asleep. Try a therapist." That's when she showed up at my apartment, standing there in my doorway looking wrecked, expecting me to fix whatever emotional crisis Mark had left her with. The audacity was breathtaking. "You're ignoring me," she said, voice trembling. "No, I've been answering your texts." "You know what I mean." Her hands clenched into fists. "This isn't how friends act." I watched her chest rise and fall too quickly. Saw her eyes darting around, looking for signs of my old life. The photos we'd taken down. The coffee mug she'd left behind that I'd kept for years. All of it gone now, donated or thrown away months ago. "You're right," I said calmly. "Friends don't owe each other midnight crisis calls. Friends don't scream at each other for having boundaries. Friends don't show up unannounced demanding emotional labor." Her face twisted with rage. "Since when are you such an emotionless robot?" "Since you told me we were better as friends." I crossed my arms. "This is what that looks like." For the first time, I saw it click. The realization that I wasn't playing some revenge game or using tactics to win her back. This was genuinely what was left after she'd stripped away the romantic relationship. Polite distance, casual acquaintance-level interaction, nothing more. "You don't get to hate me for treating you exactly how you asked to be treated," I said quietly. Tears spilled over, But they weren't the pretty performative tears she used to cry when she wanted me to fix something. These were messy and real. "You were supposed to," her voice cracked. "What? Wait around as your backup plan? Stay on the hook in case things didn't work out with Mark?" She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. The silence was thick with everything she'd never admit out loud. "You should go," I said, stepping back toward the door. For a second, I thought she'd argue. Then her shoulders slumped, all the fight draining out at once. As the door closed behind her, I realized something strange. I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel much of anything at all. Her last attempt came a week later, a text that simply said, "Maybe we could try again." I stared at it for a long moment before typing my response. "Nah, we're better as friends, remember?" Then I blocked her number. 6 months later, I saw her at a coffee shop downtown. She was sitting alone by the window, staring into a half-empty cup. No Mark, no friends, just her and a paperback novel she wasn't reading. That same vanilla perfume hung in the air around her like a ghost of who she used to be. I considered walking out, but decided to order my drink normally. She spotted me when the barista called my name. Our eyes met, and I watched her face cycle through hope, panic, and finally something that looked like shame. She opened her mouth like she might call out to me. I gave her the polite nod I'd give any acquaintance, took my coffee, and walked out without looking back. Mutual friends still update me sometimes, even when I don't ask. "She asks about you, you know. She's not doing great. That Mark guy really did a number on her." I never respond to these updates. They're not my business anymore. A year to the day after our breakup, my phone lit up with an Instagram follower request. Her profile picture showed darker hair and tired eyes. I swiped it away without a second thought. The truth about emotional manipulation is that it only works if you participate. Emma had built our entire relationship dynamic around me being emotionally available for her needs, while she maintained the freedom to explore other options. When I stopped playing that game, the whole system collapsed. Sometimes people ask if I miss her. The honest answer is that I miss who I thought she was, but I don't miss the constant anxiety of trying to figure out her moods or walking on eggshells to avoid another fight about nothing. I don't miss being someone's backup plan or emotional support system while they dated someone else. What I learned is that when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Emma showed me that she was willing to string me along while pursuing someone else. She showed me that she expected me to manage her emotions while she offered nothing in return. She showed me that our 3 years together meant so little to her that she could end it over dinner and then get annoyed when I didn't beg her to stay. So, when she came back expecting me to be the same person who would drop everything to fix her problems, she found someone who had learned to value himself more than her convenience. The greatest revenge isn't hatred or anger. It's complete indifference. And after 18 months of peace, I can finally say, that's exactly where I am. Emma ended up alone, cycling through failed relationships and wondering why no one would put up with her games anymore. Mark moved on to someone else within weeks of their breakup. And me? I'm thriving, surrounded by people who actually value what I bring to their lives instead of seeing me as a convenience they can discard and retrieve at will.